Maybe you haven't done any research on this yet, but I'm curious about your thoughts of being in the wrong intimate relationship or in a toxic relationship and how it affects your glucose spikes and your health.
Oh, cool question. There's one study that comes to mind that kind of shows the reverse. So they did this incredible study in the US. They recruited, I think it was 100 couples, married couples, okay? And they gave each person in the couple a voodoo doll representing their spouse.
Oh my gosh.
And the researchers, bless them, they asked the participants to put a pin in the voodoo doll every time their spouse annoyed them.
Come on.
I'm serious. And then they also measured these people's glucose levels. What did they find? They found that the people who had the most irregular glucose levels, the more roller coaster, well, they had put more pins in the voodoo doll representing their spouse. And now
So they had anger and resentment towards their spouse more.
Yep.
And they had more glucose spikes.
Yep.
Holy cow.
So one of the hypotheses of the scientists was that glucose spikes impact this hormone, this molecule in your brain called tyrosine, which is in charge of regulating your mood and keeping you calm and cool. And when you have lots of glucose spikes, that thing does not do well, and it's not at its normal levels. And that can lead you to being more vindictive, more irritable.
Gosh.
Yeah. So that's the only thing I know. But then in terms of what happens if you're in a toxic relationship, well, you know, if you're in a situation where you don't feel well and you're trapped or you're in a very difficult situation, your nervous system is going to respond. Your nervous system is going to be in fight or flight. Cortisol levels are going to increase. You're going to be seeking out dopamine to counteract the very difficult emotions you're feeling. So as a result, like, I can totally imagine how that would lead somebody to eat lots of sugar, have more irregular glucose spikes, etc. For sure.
Wow, man, this is fascinating. And for that, you know, you mentioned diabetes a little while ago. If someone's not going to use a glucose monitor, they're not going to monitor themselves. What would you say are the top 3 signs of understanding if your blood sugar is out of balance or unhealthy?
Well, first of all, your doctor should probably once a year test your fasting glucose levels. So that's a pretty standard test. And that will tell you, do you have prediabetes or diabetes? But once that happens, it's kind of like, well, okay, now you do something about it. But before that, I would say the most common symptoms are cravings for sweet foods. I mean, that is just such a sign, especially if you have them multiple times during the day. That means you're on the roller coaster. And then second one, which we haven't really touched on yet, has to do with energy levels. So let me explain to you something physiologically. You know how I explained that your body burns glucose for energy? Now, there's one little organelle that does this conversion of glucose into energy. It's your mitochondria,
Yes.
the powerhouse of your cell, etc. Your mitochondria, their job is to grab glucose molecules that you just ate and transform them into energy for your body to use. And your mitochondria are super happy when they receive a steady supply of glucose. They're like, steady, transform into energy, steady, all good. Now, the problem is, if you give your mitochondria way too much glucose at once, a little bit like if you gave a plant at home way too much water at once, your mitochondria are going to stress out.
Wow.
They're going to sort of go on strike. They're going to go, too much information, cannot handle, like, I'm just going to go have a nap. And they're going to stop converting glucose into energy as effectively.
Wow.
You as a human feel this as chronic fatigue. Playing with your kids is exhausting. Waking up is exhausting. Going grocery shopping is exhausting. It's 3 p.m. You need 5 Red Bulls and 2 coffees to stay awake. And then at night you can't fall asleep and you don't feel well.
Oh, man.
Right? So there's a problem in your energy capacity in your body. Your mitochondria are damaged. With every glucose spike, you increase that damage of your mitochondria. And so chronic fatigue is a telltale sign that your glucose levels are out of whack. So I would say cravings and chronic fatigue.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
You're like, whoa.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. There's something that you triggered in my mind to ask you about: smoothies, juices, and coffee. Can we have them, or do they cause too much of a glucose spike that cause more damage than, I guess, healthy benefits?
First of all, you can have everything.
Okay.
I'm always going to tell you if it's 2 p.m.
I like it. Don't restrict me. Come
Yeah,
on.
I'm like, if it's 10 a.m. on a Sunday and I want chocolate ice cream, I'm going to have
it.
it. Okay, yeah, eat it. 100%. Okay, so.
But what happens to our glucose levels when we have smoothies, juices, or coffee?
Okay, so first of all, coffee, fine. Just don't put any sugar in it.
No sugar.
Yeah,
What
or
if you-
some
what if you
stevia
like
or
sugar?
something. Well, then have the sugar.
But you have to have something else beforehand.
Yeah, try to have, if you have sugar in
Vinegar.
your coffee, have it after breakfast instead of before breakfast.
Don't just drink coffee with sugar by itself.
Big glucose spike.
Big one.
Yeah.
What about coffee with like a milk or a creamer or something like that?
Fine. Oat milk is going to be the worst for your
Yeah,
glucose levels. Oat milk is like making pasta juice.
Oh, man.
So you cook some pasta, you put it in the blender with some water,
Oh,
you blend
man.
it until it's liquid. That's pasta milk.
Big spike.
When you make oat milk, it's the same.
What about oats by itself with a little bit of protein?
That's better. Yeah, that's good for breakfast. You can have that.
Okay.
But listen, if you love oat milk, have it. You know, I'm
Sure,
just
sure.
telling you the
Yeah,
different stuff. So oat milk, not my favorite. Favorites would be like whole fat dairy or nut milks.
Almond milk.
Unsweetened.
Unsweetened almond milk. A little bit of
Yes.
that's fine. A little bit of stevia.
Yeah, why
that's
not?
fine. Okay.
Okay, let's talk about fruit. You ready?
Yes.
Okay.
What's
So-
the worst fruit to have?
There's no such thing as worse fruit
What
to
causes
have.
the greatest spike?
Fruit juice.
Juices.
Okay, yeah, let me explain. So, you know how humans bred gray wolves into lots of different breeds of dogs, like Chihuahuas? Chihuahua is not a natural breed, right? For thousands of years, we've been breeding different wolves and blah, blah, blah to make all these different breeds of dogs. Well, we haven't been doing that just with dogs. We've been doing that with plants and with fruit. All of the fruit you find today at the supermarket is not natural, not a single one.
Really?
They are all, yes, they are all the result of thousands of years of selective breeding to make fruit that are juicy, full of sweetness, not too much fiber, not too many seeds, okay? All the fruit that we have today is a human invention. They're all human inventions. If you compare, let's say, today's banana to an ancestral bananas are full of seeds. They're tiny,
small,
they're
yeah.
tart, and they're really hard to eat. So remember this, fruits are a human invention. Today's fruit are a human invention. Now, the thing is, if you want to eat something sweet, having a piece of fruit is still the best thing to do because fruit contains fiber. And fiber, as I explained, helps to slow the glucose spike.
Which fruits have the best fiber? Because fruit juice, you're saying, has no fiber. Very little.
Yeah, listen, I don't want to call out specific fruits. I think have the fruit you like best. Okay, fine. If you want me to call out specific fruits, I will. Berries
Are
are
the best.
probably the best
Yeah, yeah.
option. Yeah. Tropical fruit like mangoes, even apples these days are super sweet. I mean, have whole fruit. I don't want to demonize whole fruit, but what happens is that if you juice fruit, you're throwing away the fiber. That's the stuff that goes into the garbage bin. That is the fiber.
That's the good stuff
Yeah.
for your gut
Yeah.
and helps the spice to go down.
Yeah. And then if you make a fruit juice, it's just water and sugar. And
Without the fiber.
without the fiber.
So what if you had the fiber in some other food first and then you had orange juice?
Sure, if you want.
Is the spike going to be lesser?
Yeah, I mean, you can always, be very ingenious about stuff, but
Right,
I would
right.
recommend people see orange juice as dessert. If you want a juice, it's for pleasure, it's for dessert.